Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. You know what happened? You know what happened last night? It was really funny. And now let me explain to you, because this is whenever I start off with a little blurb at the beginning, it's always in context with the review, because I think that these types of explanations help out. And this what happened last night is an example of why movies are so bad. It's it just shows you how bad movies are nowadays. Last night, well, okay, actually the story starts 3 days ago. 3 days ago, I watched another 1955 movie, The Night of the Hunter, with Robert Mitchum. And I thought that the plot sounded pretty good, and I thought that it sounded like a really entertaining and suspenseful movie. And I was right, I really liked it, even though, something that I hate about the summertime? I hate how the sun glares and gets onto the TV. And so when I'm watching movies, a lot of the times in the daytime, the sunlight is on the television screen, and it makes it kind of shitty to watch movies sometimes. And even though the sun did that while I was watching this, I really liked it. I thought that it was a masterpiece of a film. I thought that it was really ahead of its time, and really, it's just unbelievable that you have movies that were like this from back then. And it just shows that, the typical view on films from back then, it's not accurate at all, because it's basically stereotyping off of maybe, like, I don't know, one movie or two from each era. And so from this point on, I'm going to stop, like, with the saying that movies from back then, like, they're sexist, they're racist. Like, who cares? Like, you have movies like this, and it's, even if there's one movie like this per era, that is sufficient to say that, you know what, they're not all bad just because they're old. And, once again, it's another movie from back then that I love. And it just shows that, when I watch movies from back then, it's almost like a 70% guarantee that I'll like them. Whereas with movies nowadays, it's basically like a 30% chance that I'll like them. And even if I do like them, it's basically just grading on a curve, to say the least. Like, there really hasn't been any movies that I've liked in the past couple of years. They just get worse and worse and worse. And it's just like watching a giant train wreck. It's like watching the Polar Express crash into an iceberg or something. So I watched it. I really liked it. And then yesterday night, it was really funny because I had a couple of options. I've been doing a lot of writing, obviously writing out a script. And when I write, a lot of the times I'll just get a fog in my head, and I'm just not able to write. And so I'll have to take a break, I'll have to watch something, I'll have to decompress and, like, take my mind off of what I'm doing, so that then a couple hours later I can come back and go, yeah, okay, now I'm on a roll. I got to do that a lot of the times. And last night I thought, what movie should I watch? Should I watch, I don't know, a movie from 2017? Should I watch a new release movie so I could review it for today? Like the new Ice Age movie, or, that other movie that came, like, I don't know, the stupid movies that came out yesterday. Should I watch one of those? Or should I watch, another movie from last year that maybe, like, oh, maybe I should have given that a chance? Well, You know what I decided to do? Go to Amazon and watch The Night of the Hunter for the second time. I mean, that just shows how bad movies are nowadays. That you have all these options, and I'm 23, okay, and that's just even more embarrassing. I'm a 23-year-old man, and a straight man, by the way, and 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 I'm sitting there and I'm like, what should I watch? And what do I go with? Movie from the 50s. It just shows that it's a prime. It just that's all you need to know about film from nowadays. We don't have films anymore. We just have products, and we have a lot of talentless filmmakers who all they do is take from others. They're not mature enough to come up with anything by themselves. Even with me, I spent a huge chunk of my childhood writing fan fiction, and now I am repurposing that fan fiction into my own original stories. And so it's a little bit tricky to get around that and to try to make it my own without going so far that it's just ridiculous. But anyways, that's the story, is that I had all these choices. I had thousands of movies I could have watched, thousands, and I could have picked any one of them. What did I pick? I picked The Night of the Hunter. And so now let's talk about The Night of the Hunter, because this movie is a masterpiece. And it's funny because you never hear anyone talk about it. You never hear anyone talk about the performances or anything. I mean, this is a criminally underrated movie, and it's just there's so many things to talk about. It's like when you have a giant painting, like a huge container of paints in front of you, and you can just pick any color and all of them will be good for the painting. Like, that's what this is like. This movie, it starts off, and let's just start off with the fact that the plot is what it is. The plot is dark. It is suspenseful. It's thrilling. It's fun. It's creative. There's so many. The plot of this movie, if you explained it to someone in a very deadpan manner, they'd just be like, that's pretty good. But the way that this movie was made, the way that it was made with the performances, just the look of this movie. I mean, they call this movie a noir, and this is really a noir done right. I mean, there's so many amazing shots where there's all this black in the screen. And usually nowadays, everything just looks gray and dull and ugly. You have all these movies in color, and then they'll desaturate it and make the movie look like it was shot in black and white. And then you have a movie like this, and it's in black and white, and somehow this movie looks like it has more color than these color movies from 2022. I mean, that's just pretty embarrassing, to say the least. There's so many great shots, and like in fact there's so many, it would be hard to pick what's the best one. Like, I would say, maybe the shot where they're on the river and they're riding on the river and they go through the spider's web, and you have the spider's web up in the foreground, and just, that was an amazing shot. Another thing about this movie that I really loved was that you had a lot of shots like that where it's really upsetting to watch these movies, actually, because you just see how film has degraded. They focus on nothing but agendas nowadays, and it just shows how that has destroyed cinema, and it's destroyed art. It's destroyed storytelling, because a lot of these shots, I'm going to have to get some water. I haven't had any water yet today, so my throat is dry. But you have all these shots like that one. And usually in a movie from nowadays, those shots would go like 3 seconds. And in fact, I'll let you in on a little secret. As soon as I take a little drink. Okay, there we go. I went to this film camp, okay? At this film camp, we were given a camera and a tripod, and it was set up on the recreation grounds, and we basically got to film B-roll footage of people playing around on the playground for like a recreation break segment. And we were told to only film stuff for 3 seconds max. And that is exactly why movies are bad nowadays. 3 seconds max. I mean, you just think, what in the hell could happen in 3 seconds that's worth anything except for like, oh yeah, there's that. It's like, God, are people so retarded that they don't have the attention span to watch a shot that lasts for more than 3 seconds? I mean, that's just fucking pathetic. And in this movie, there are so many shots that just linger and linger to the point of where you're like, oh my God, why aren't they cutting? Like, not like in a bad way, but like in a good way, where, I would expect if they made that movie nowadays, it would just be, okay, there's the spider's web, cut. Okay, there's the shot of the wife Willa in the river, dead, cut. Like, you wouldn't see any of these great shots because they just fucking cut away. And I think that is a huge problem. And a lot of it has to do with maturity, because there's something that I discovered on YouTube. That was weird. I discovered on YouTube that there is a 2.5-hour video of behind the scenes footage where the director, we see behind the scenes footage of all the shots from the movie, and the director, Charles Lawton, shooting and directing each scene. You can really see the difference, because nowadays, they don't even have behind the scenes footage anymore. Probably because it would be used to expose people. Like, if there was an actress and she made up some bullshit about, that guy was really mean to me on set. Well, then they could just show the behind the scenes footage and say, hey, look, she's like, she likes him. She's like laughing along next to him, and like they're having fun. Like, people would use that stuff nowadays to expose people, including me. If someone made an accusation to get like with that crybaby ass Ray Fisher said like, oh, that director's a racist. I would literally just pull up behind the scenes footage of us getting along and having a fun time, because and this behind the scenes footage too, you can really just see the maturity in this director. He's not like okay, let's shoot that scene. Like, no, he is very serious. He's like, okay, now you will put your arm around him, and then he's very, very serious, and he's very like focused. And it's amazing to watch, because you can really get a glimpse into the world from back then, full of morals and values, versus the world of today, full of gross, disgusting degeneracy and degenerate people. who they're not mature. You have all these adults, and they act like they're 5, and they act like they're little children. And then you have the children in this movie, Pearl and John, and they act like they're more mature than the adults from today. Like, that's just so embarrassing. And let's really take a deep dive into this movie, why it's good. Because the movie's pacing is something that it takes its time. And even when it's stuff that, like, you can see, like, clearly what's going to happen, there's this feeling of dread. Because I loved it in the opening scene when you see the dad, the OG dad, and he's like, I'm not telling your mom about the money. She doesn't have any common sense. And oh my God, the second time I watched this, we really see that. Like, oh, like he was a savage guy, and he knew exactly what he was talking about. Because then you see, like, she marries a guy like 2 days after his first husband is dead. Or like, what was it, like a day? Like, was it even 2 days? Like, God, what? And then what else? I mean, she doesn't trust her own children. Remember that where Harry tells her that John is lying, and so then she believes him over John, and it's like, this bitch is fucking retarded. And it's so good that they did not tell her that he did not tell her where the money was, because if the Reverend knew where the money was, he would have just killed all 3 of them and ran away and gotten away with it like usual. And that's something else that I really loved about this movie, was the darkness. This movie's plot was extremely dark, and it's so much darker than anything from nowadays. You can really feel the danger, and I think that that's something that is really missing from films nowadays, because I don't feel any danger at all when I watched Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, it's just, ugh, ugh. Didn't feel any danger. I mean, did you really think that one of those Spider-Men were gonna die? No. Like, do you think that in the new Batman movie, do you think that Twilight Boy or Ghetto Catwoman, do you think that they're gonna die? No. Okay, I mean, there's no danger in movies anymore at all. And this is a movie where you have a man who is chasing after, like, how old are they? Like 10 and 5? He's chasing after a 10 and 5-year-old so that he can steal their money that they need to grow up, because they don't have any parents anymore. They're parentless children. And then he wants to kill them and move on and just kill more people and get more money. What an amazing plot that is. I just love it whenever I see children are in danger in movies, because it lets me know that the movie's not playing around. Just look at, I mean, another example I could point to from nowadays was one from last year called My Son. And it had James McAvoy. And his son gets kidnapped, and he almost gets, wait, was it a son or a girl? I can't remember. See, that's how bad the movie was, that I can't even remember if it was a son or a daughter. Whatever it was, the child was the child was kidnapped and almost sold into sex slavery. And literally the whole movie, the child is held in this one place, and James McAvoy infiltrates it, and he basically has to fight and kill to get his whatever the thing, the child, to get it back. And so in that movie, like, we knew that the whole movie that the kid was going to be okay because they were just in that place the whole movie. And so we knew that there wasn't any danger there. We knew that they were going to be okay. There wasn't any threat at all. There wasn't any suspense either. That's another thing. And I think that the suspense part has to do with the timing part. You know why? Because if we have suspense, if we draw out scenes for suspense, that means that you're spending more time, more time doing the suspense. And so I think directors, they just want to fast pace through scenes with no suspense because it takes more time. And I think that that's a problem. And so you can see it all has to do with this laziness to do with time. Even in television, TV is a long form entertainment system. It's supposed to have like 25 episodes a season. You're supposed to have like 10 seasons before you call it quits. But nowadays, directors are like, we don't want to overstay our welcome. And so we'll only have 10 episodes and 5 seasons. And I will be back for part 2. Breakfast just arrived. And so, anyways, I am now back. I have breakfast. What happened was, yesterday, I forgot to I forgot to go to the store, to go into the store and get breakfast materials for today. So Safi ran out and got some stuff while I'm doing the review. And so, yeah, it was a pretty good breakfast. I'm a little full. So I went from going like to now I'm like full talking about this movie. Anyways, this movie, one of the best things about the movie is the music. And in a lot of movies, there's either an overabundance of music or there's not enough. And now, in terms of overabundance, last year there was a film called The Female Hustler, and I mean, I swear to God, there were like 100 songs, and it literally just felt like the editor was changing stations on the radio and saying, okay, this next scene we're going to change the song to the station to 106.79, and then the next scene, okay, it's 116 FM now. That's what it felt like the whole movie. And with this movie, with The Night of the Hunter, what's really cool about it is that there's not as much music. There's music in very key places. And the music is so good that I really think that it should have won an award. Because the music was perfect. It was, there was lots of singing, and there was lots of, like, how in Halloween they play the Halloween theme the whole movie? Well, just imagine if the villain of the movie sang a song that was a tune that, let you know that they're there. And it's like an ominous gospel tune. And so you have the main villain of this movie, Harry, and he sings a song the whole movie whenever he comes around. And it's really, really cool. And I would say the best scene of the whole movie is near the end. And it's where he is sitting outside the house and he's singing the song that he sang the whole movie. And then at the same time, you have, I can't remember her name, but you have Lillian Gish, who I'll talk about at the end. She is sitting there on the porch with her shotgun, and she starts singing the song with him, as if it's like her and him, like two opposing forces. And it's like such an incredible scene. It's probably one of the best scenes in movie history. And it's just so perfect. And, stuff like that, musical cues like that are utilized throughout the movie in such a perfect way that it really makes you think, like, you know what? Music needs to be thought out a lot more. music nowadays has basically become filler for stuff where, like, I can think of a good filler usage is Better Call Saul. And Better Call Saul, the show that sucks now, in seasons 1 through 3, they had a lot of montages of people doing very mundane things. And whenever they did these montages, like, I can think of one where I think Chuck was piecing together pieces of shredded papers. They would play this music, and like music in these filler montages to sort of help them be more entertaining. But I feel like music has become less about the emotion and more about the convenience, if that makes any sense. The convenience of music. Like, okay, these you have these two people, they're staring at each other, and instead of letting that scene be any sort of impactful, have any sort of impactful intensity with silence or, just background noises, because background noise is music too. Actually, uh, they'll play this music like duh, 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 and then you'll have the other side. It's so cartoonish and so childish, and there's just a strong theme of childishness with movies nowadays. Like, even with movies made by good filmmakers, like last year, Licorice Pizza, what was that all about? It was about a woman who's 25, but she's still stuck in her teenage years, and then an actual teenager. And so it's almost like filmmakers are like, they're de aging because they're so afraid to they're so afraid to actually like make something that I don't know how to say it. Like, they're so afraid to make something because they think nothing will ever measure up to the movies from back then. Like, oh, I can't make a movie about people going to Oklahoma, and then on the way there they I don't know, become drug dealers, because that movie, oh, that'll never be as good as Grapes of Wrath or something like that. Like, there's this like fear and failure nowadays with people. And I think with this movie, it's sad because I guess this movie failed back then when it came out. And God, if I was around when this movie came out, I would have been talking all about this movie, telling everyone to see it. I would have been hounding all the people who made it for autographs. I would have been doing all sorts of shit because this movie is a masterpiece. And there's no dull moment. The only now here's the but. The only thing I did not like was the ending. Yeah, the ending. It's fine. It's just movies from back then, a lot of them had to have very happy endings because the filmmakers, Alfred Hitchcock even said, torture your audience up until the very end. But then at the end, you have a relief. And, he did that in Frenzy. Frenzy is my favorite Hitchcock movie. The whole movie, 2 hours, these characters are tortured. Then at the very end, the police inspector comes in and he's like, don't worry, I know it's not you. And then they stand there and they wait for the bad guy to come to the apartment. And it's like such a satisfying feeling. But in this movie, in Night of the Hunter, I did not like the feel-good ending. I thought that it was very fake and very, like, it was like a balloon deflating and flying all over the room and, like just so unimpactful. It was basically a repeat of a line that she says earlier in the film, Lillian, I'm just going to call her Lillian, where she says that the children abide. And well, then at the very end, she says they abide. And it's like, fuck off. Like, you already said that. Like, you don't need to say that again. Like, you don't need to repetitively say, like, this movie is about rape. this movie is about rape. This movie is about rape. That's what agenda filmmakers do. That's what they do the whole movie, like in Black Klansman, the whole movie they're talking about their little agenda points and everything. Well, in this movie, they do that like twice with that abiding thing. And I thought that the ending was bad. I did not like the ending at all. In fact, there was a perfect moment at the ending when the police car is riding off and the mob is chasing after the police car with Harry in it. Lillian is taking all the kids home and they're avoiding the mob and they're avoiding the police car. But I thought it would have been so brilliant if the police car ended up passing the children and then Harry says like one last thing to them, or he sings that song one last time, and or like maybe then the police tell him to shut up, and he's like, ugh, and then he can't even sing anymore, and then they just ride out. Like I thought that would have been such a better ending than the one that we got, this kind of feel good Christmas type of ending, because it still would have been satisfying since I don't know, just the ending, it kind of felt rushed at the end too. Like we didn't really get, Harry doesn't really say anything. Like when the kid John, when he dumps all the money out all over him and he says, I don't even want it anymore, I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of all this fucking shit with this fucking Robert Mitchum chasing me around and trying to kill me, and my sister who's like 5 years old. But he never even really says anything in the end. He just kind of like stares and makes faces, and I kind of thought that was weird. I wonder if the book says anything about, like, if he says anything, the character says anything at the end. But because we had at the beginning, remember he was in court and he said, I am Reverend Harry Powell. And then the judge said, no, you're not. You're a fucking cheap ass motherfucker. I'm just gonna call you Harry. Now go into prison and get fucked. Fucking retard. Well, at the ending, he doesn't really say anything. And I was kind of hoping that he would say like a couple of last things or something. So I was kind of disappointed by that. But other than that, this movie is perfection personified. Like, this is perfection with a capital P. I mean, you even got good child performances. Like, Pearl was really cute, and she gave a really cute performance and really innocent performance. And then John gave John was cool. Like, this is how you do child characters. Like, you don't do them like a smart ass know-it-all like Kevin McAllister. You do child characters like John Harper, because this character is just so badass. I mean, he could have survived any. If he was in Terminator 2, he wouldn't have even needed the Terminator. Because that's another thing, is that this movie is literally Terminator 2, but without Sarah or the Terminator. And so if you just realize that, like, that's how good this movie is. So I love this movie. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. I would highly recommend it. And I would say that, you need to watch it so that you can see why movies were good back then and why they're terrible now. Because it really lays it all out for you. You can see in every aspect of filmmaking, every single aspect, even down to the set design. Like, if you look at the sets in this movie, they're just so incredible. Like, you have a lot of bedrooms, and the bedrooms, they're like filled with like a framing of black shadow. And it almost looks like the bedrooms are in like a dollhouse or something, and they have such a cool look to them. And then, like, there's so many things to talk about with this movie. Like, you could go on for hours about all the good stuff in this movie. Just all the little touches, like how the dad in the prison cell when he gags himself, and then later on in the movie, Harry asks John where the money is, the son, and then he gags himself too. And it's like there's so many touches like that in this movie. It just shows it's like I really hope there's lots more like this movie to discover, because also this is such a better movie than Rebel Without a Cause. I just gotta say that, like, it doesn't matter. This movie came out in the same year as Rebel Without a Cause, and this is a fucking million times better. Uh, it's a lot smarter of a story. It's a lot better of a story. It's such a good movie. In terms of a food rating, usually I give perfect movies spaghetti. But, oh yeah, speaking of licorice pizza, if you just want to know how movies wanted to do anything they want back then, you have this really creepy sequence in the movie where Harry is, and I don't know, it's said that the girl in Ruby, in real life, she was like 22 when she made the movie, but in the movie, I guess she's supposed to be like 12 or something. But Harry like bribes her, and he's like seducing her in order to figure out where the kids are. And it's like, you'd never see that in a movie nowadays. Nowadays, you couldn't do stuff like that because there would be a big outrage, because movies nowadays, they can't do anything too. Like there's all this restraint, like with Licorice Pizza. They didn't even get in a relationship in that movie until like the ending credits, and yet still people are complaining about it. And it's like, it's a movie, but it just shows that, like, back then, people have this misconception where they think movies from back then, they were constrained and they couldn't do anything. Like, oh, just because they couldn't show the throat slit in the movie means they couldn't do anything. But it's like, the reality is that movies today are the ones that are more constrained. So I just wanted to talk about that because I thought that was fucking hilarious. You have Ruby, and she's in love with him like all the way up until the very end. Like that's how much they didn't care. Like nowadays, if they did that, this movie get canceled, and they'd say that this movie's like, all sorts of bad things, and it's like, it's too bad that we can't have movies like this made nowadays. Of course, we can, because I will make them myself, and I don't give a flying fuck what people say. I've told you guys the types of things people have said about some of my work, and I don't give a flying fuck. Okay, I'll do whatever the fuck I want, and because I believe in art and anti-censorship, and so I'm not gonna cave in to these fucking losers who don't even like movies or books or anything. That's the other thing, is that all these people who have outrage nowadays over this type of stuff, they don't even care about movies. They don't care about books. They don't care about comics. They're using it as a platform to invade and to ruin something that's yours. And so I want you to realize that it's basically, shut up. It's basically like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and all these people. Okay, fine, I'll end it now. It's getting a little long anyway. Shut up. Ugh. I give perfect movies spaghetti, but this movie had a very country feel to it. It had a very Americana, out in the middle of nowhere, Midwest type of feel. And in fact, this movie takes place in Ohio, so that's pretty interesting. But I would rate this movie a chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and white gravy, because that's what you have with chicken fried steak. You have white gravy and then corn. And then a glass of, what would I like to drink right now? Like if I could just pick anything. A glass of icy Mr. Pibb. And I'm not talking about like a glass with ice. I'm talking about a slushy. Like you take ice, you put it in a blender, and then you put it in a cup like a Taco Bell freeze, and then you pour some Mr. Pibb in that bitch. That's what this movie is. It's a slushy Mr. Pibb with a chicken fried steak dinner. And now for the spoilers. I would say that this movie, well, not spoilers, but a little announcement at the end. When I started doing some research on this movie and just like taking in appreciation for it, because when I watch movies from back then, back when filmmakers were talented, I take in appreciation for them and try to appreciate each one equally, even if I don't really fully like them. So that's why I was like so nice to that shitty Young Frankenstein movie, was because I was just trying to appreciate it from a filmmaker's perspective. And with this movie, I looked up and I saw that the actress playing the old woman, I can't remember her character's name, Lillian Gish, she's actually from Ohio. And I saw that she has all these other movies she's done that are like really popular. She's done a lot of great movies, and she did it like all throughout from 1900 like 10 all the way to 1990s. So she really like has a full-bodied career, unlike Peter Boyle. So I am going to do a Lillian Gish week all by myself. I'll still be doing stuff with Safi. I still have to finish up the shitty Peter Boyle week. But I want to do that because I'm excited to check out her movies and to see like how good they are. And so I'll be watching one from like almost each decade. And to start off, I'm going to review a very non-controversial movie called Birth of a Nation. it's a 3-hour silent movie, so I hate silent movies. They make me fall asleep. They make me want to stab my eyes out from boredom. And so don't worry, I probably won't like it because I already watched Alfred Hitchcock's first movie, The Pleasure Garden, a couple of days ago, and I was falling asleep. Like, I don't even know what happened because I was just so bored. And so I can only guess what will happen when I'm watching this 3-hour Birth of a Nation movie. Oh, I can't wait to do that. And then watch all the other movies. So please like this video if you liked it. Comment and tell me what you thought about The Night of the Hunter. It's a great title. It's a fantastic film. And then please subscribe to our channel if you want to see more movie reviews that are honest and complete. Like, even though I talk a lot of shit about modern movies, I'll still say if one is good or not. I'm not just going to say they're all bad. But it's just a very grim outlook when you have all these movies that are unoriginal, and you even have, what's sickening? You even have movies like Scream, where they outwardly tell you, audiences are too stupid. We have to copy everything from previous movies, or else the internet is going to get mad. So they're even telling you now in their own movies that they're literally just copying things and pasting them, plagiarizing, and they think that's okay. It looks really bad. It's really embarrassing. If Charles Lawton heard about that, he'd probably laugh his ass off and fucking call these people what they are, which is untalented and amateurs and childish. So, goodbye everybody. See you soon for Birth of a Nation. Bye.